West Ham United 2, Leicester City 0. Super Tom, Tommy Soucek on the score sheet yet again, ditching his trademark helicopter celebration out of respect for Leicester City and their former chairman, who, of course, died in that helicopter crash. 3 points for the Hammers. The second one should have been given to Bowen, went down as Yannick Vestergaard own goal. Game signed, sealed and delivered before half-time, leaving West Ham United in the heady heights of 15th in the Premier League. But what we should have done is said West Ham are level on points with Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, which is seriously funny. Also 1 point above David Moyes and his all-conquering Everton team at the moment. The position is pretty meh. We're so far clear of the relegation spots that we're not going down. As we've said, it's kind of a battle for mid-table mediocrity. Season's been over for a while, but 3 points is 3 points nonetheless, and there'll be some positives to take, no doubt. I'm joined by my pal, my very good mate, James Jones, who was at the game on Thursday night, whereas I was standing in a queue at Stansted for my 2-hour delayed Ryanair flight to Zagreb, not to go to the Dinamo Zagreb Hajduk Split game on Sunday, which was marred, as I understand it, with equal amounts of violence as we're seeing when West Ham fans played away at Dinamo Zagreb. Several ambushes and generally dangerous, pretty rank stories we've heard from that game. So I missed the game. I wasn't at London Stadium on Thursday. Jonesy, you were there, as sometimes happens on the We Are West Ham podcast when one of us can't attend a game or just the one of us has been there. You're going to have to do all the heavy lifting tonight on the detail of the game. Are you happy with that job, I suppose?
I'm happy, but you just said that, and it's jogged my memory that last in the build-up, I think it was last week's show, we were reacting to the Arsenal game, and someone commented on that video on YouTube.
Yeah,
absolutely incensed that neither of us were at the game.
Really?
Apparently, we make a living off of YouTube,
right?
But we make a living off of YouTube, but neither of us could be bothered to go to the game.
Wow.
Neither of us rate Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And then he said goodbye. So
goodbye.
So I assume they've either unsubscribed or just closed the tab. I don't know.
Yeah.
So if they're
Who
watching
was
this
it?
week, I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. I did reply and was like, well, given that right at the beginning, Will said that he wasn't there because he was working. So that's a fair enough excuse and a good sign that he doesn't make a living off of YouTube.
Yeah. Well, that I was going to say, I'm more than happy to send them the YouTube revenue sheet to show that the last thing we do is make a living off of YouTube. If
we did make a living off of YouTube, I'm pretty sure we'd both be homeless right now.
Was this the Arsenal game, by the way?
This was after the Arsenal game. Couldn't believe it. Right. They were mind blown that neither of us had gone to the game.
Oh, was said person also aware that getting your hands on away tickets is like away tickets are about as like gold dust. I think I'm very ill, James. Okay, you're gonna have to forgive me not being able to get my words out tonight. Quite a simple phrase I was going for there, which was like gold dust. Away tickets are very difficult to get hold of, particularly for a game such as Arsenal. You have to have a monumental amount of points. I could have gone in, but like I say, I had to work. And we I don't know what else to say, really.
Well, no, yeah, I did reply, as I said, but it's either just they didn't watch the show enough to put two and two together and realise, or it's one of those quite annoying fans that if you don't go home and away, you're not proper West Ham. You're not proper West Ham. You don't go away from home, you're not proper West Ham. So maybe it's one of those fans. I don't know, but apologies if you're watching again this week. Apologies. Only one of us went, which is better than none of us. So you're going to get half the story this week, but at least it's better than nothing.
Yeah, Greg Charteris it was, mate. I am amazed. You two make a living from YouTube, and neither you watch the game, and you're not convinced about Obi-Wan. I assume he means Aaron Wan. My goodness, see ya. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Well, what are you watching? Wham. This is good. Well, what are you watching? SAKA, as in WAMBA is amazing. Has been since the day he signed. Just admit you're wrong about him. These days, a lot of kids go to games with their mum and dad. Hence, popcorn. It's not all beer and pie, lads. That's from Lola Venenberg to you. I'm a Liverpool fan. And this is still from Lola. I'm a Liverpool fan, and since West Ham beat the Arsenal, I've been watching AFTV and other fan bases, and they are hilarious. Good on West Ham knocking Arteta down a peg or two. Great show, by the way, boys. Well, thanks very much, Lola. And then she dug out your popcorn stance. No, it was my popcorn stance, wasn't it? I'm sorry. Yeah.
On my side here, mate.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Sorry. So anyway, sorry, Greg. I mean, I will say, James, there isn't a ground in the Premier League that I haven't been to watching West Ham away. So I think me and you have both got fairly good credentials where West Ham are concerned. I would argue thousands of games for the Hammers between the two of us over our lifetime. But let's not get into a West Ham off with a faceless YouTube account. I think he's faceless. No, as suspected, Jonesy, Green Street Greg Charteris, 3912 on YouTube. Hasn't got a picture. He's got a picture of some random seaside town in what looks like Thailand as his profile picture. So fair enough. Right, Jonesy, you're at the game then. Little bit of a... Actually, you know what? Wait, let's just tell people what's coming up on the show first, shall we? So we'll do some Leicester reaction from Jonesy predominantly. I'll just warn you now. Do you think being out of the country is adequate excuse to not go to a West Ham game, James? Like being on an actual flight, is that allowed?
No.
Unacceptable.
You should have been there, mate. You should have been there. Or you should have at least been surfing the internet and accidentally come across the game on the phone.
I literally was up in the air as the game was going on, to be fair.
Still not good enough, mate. You're not a good West Ham fan, clearly.
I tell you what, mate, I'll sacrifice my £4.33 share of the YouTube revenue last week. So I won't be earning a living off of it last week. That seems fair. So we're going to do a Leicester reaction with predominantly James. I'm going to ask him some questions. He's going to inform me. Hopefully you'll all enjoy listening to it. I've watched the extended highlights, if that counts at all. And then we'll do some messages from Patreon first of all, and then some general stuff. I've already done some of the reaction to the YouTube channel, to be fair. We'll do some messages, a little bit of chat about some of the topics that have come up there, not to mention the season ticket prices being frozen. And I'll let you into a little conversation that my dad and I were having over the weekend atop a hill in Graz in Austria. That's quite an interesting one. And then we'll have a little look ahead to the Newcastle game Monday night. I've actually, through work again, which was some of the reasons that I haven't been able to attend West Ham, been to two of the last three Newcastle games. I went to their away game at Manchester City, where they got absolutely thumped, and then I was at their home game against Nottingham Forest, which was a 7-goal thriller, very entertaining. So I'll do a bit of talking then for the Newcastle bit. And then we'll just have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a chat like we usually do. Read out some comments. I hope you enjoy and stay with us for all of that. Don't forget to follow us on socials at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter, at @WeAreWestHamPod on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're closing in on 2K subscribers, actually, Jonesy. We Are West Ham Podcast. So go and subscribe over there. And, of course, obviously subscribe, follow, whatever the wording is now on all your podcast platforms. I'm sure most of you do already. But if you don't, make sure you hit follow. And, of course, if you want these podcast episodes a day before your... a day before everyone else, I think is the way to put it, plus ad-free listening, subscribe at patreon.com/WeAreWestHamPodcast, where, as I say, you get all the podcasts earlier than everyone else, and you also get ad-free listening, and you can also chip in on the We Are West Ham community message boards and all the different chats we had over there. I must admit, it is you get free reign over there to have a go at me and James as well, but everyone's actually very respectful and polite, which is lovely. So that's patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast to support me and James and make sure that this podcast continues going beyond the end of this season. Patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast if you fancy that. Right, all of that's coming up. Stay with us. Leicester reaction first. That's up next. Right, West Ham 2, Leicester 0. James, talk to me about the game. Your brief synopsis was really good in the first half, kind of didn't bother in the second, but we won the game. It's 3 points. Leicester are terrible.
Yeah. The first half was kind of like, well, let's just make sure we get the goals and then we'll see how the rest of the game goes. And I think in the second half, Graham Potter just was quite content with the fact that we didn't even need to try and score another one because Leicester were not very good, and kind of made 3 very like-for-like substitutions just to kill the game off a little bit, and that was that. It was the first half was good. The second half, I think we could have all left in the second half and you wouldn't have missed anything. But I don't mind that at all. I saw a few moans and groans on Twitter that we should have put them to the sword and should have gone for 4 or 5. And a part of me is just like, yeah, that would have been nice. But end of the day, it's 3 points, isn't it? It's back-to-back wins for the first time this season, back-to-back clean sheets. Who would have thought it? So, I mean, I'm quite content with it. It was a thoroughly professional victory in the Premier League. And we probably won't play a worse team this season.
Nah. That's literally it, isn't it? It's one of those where I mean he did have a few people, Jonesy, right? I must admit, and again, as we both do on this podcast, we like to admit when we're wrong. We're not sort of total egomaniacs, are we? Determined, despite what Mark Scott thinks about me. I like to think that you and I both hold each other to account and that we can hold our hands up if we're either initially wrong or eventually proved wrong. One thing we sort of said about a while ago was just that we're going to scrape through enough points to get through this season. It's going to be totally non-eventful and forgettable. One thing you said, though, fairly recently was from the next 4 games, I think we said, you said you'd be delighted to get 6 points. And after 2 games, James Jones, I said 4. I said I'd be pretty pleased with the return of 4 from Arsenal away, Leicester at home, Newcastle at home, Everton away. And we've already got 6. People were queuing up to say, well played, Jonesy, for being positive. Jonesy was right. He's got his 6 already. Hopefully we can go even better than what Jonesy thought. And we're at 6 points already, Jonesy. Can we make it 9?
Yes, we can. But I would add, and this will not come as a surprise to any, but when I said 6 points, I did not in any scenario think that we'd get 3 at Arsenal. Half of those 6 points that I predicted, we've already got the home game against Leicester. So I'm absolutely delighted with that. I mean, I would like to say that I'm going to try and revise that now. Right. Given that we've got 3 unlikely points already at Arsenal, so I would like to say 9.
No, you can't. You can't do that, mate. You can't
say 9. Oh, come on! I mean, I would like to revise it because
that's the sort of thing that always leaves you disappointed, mate.
Yeah, I know, but because we've won that game at Arsenal, you're now going, okay, well, if we only end up with 6 points in those 4 games, you're looking at going, oh, that's a little bit annoying.
No, you can't. This is the sort of mindset that leaves you on a hide into nothing forever, my friend.
I know. I'm sorry, but I'm in a positive mood. I feel like we're doing well.
Yeah, but you're teeing yourself up for disappointment, mate. I'm sitting. Imagine being me right now. I'm gone. I thought we could get 4 points. We've already got 6. I can just sit there and watch the next 2 games, nice and relaxed. It doesn't matter. They've already exceeded my expectations. What a wonderful, relaxed state of mind to be in.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be happy with the 6 on paper, but realistically, if we don't beat that and get at least 9, at least 3 over the next 2, I'll be low-key disappointed.
Ah, Josie, you be one of them, right? If next season we're like absolutely steaming it, yeah, and we're top of the league until game 37, and then end up coming second, you'll still be like, disappointing season. That disappointing. Should have won it. Should have won it. Should have won it. We were there all the way to the end. Should have won. Well, coming second's quite good, isn't it? Nah, should have won it.
It's similar to last year where we had our best ever start to a Premier League season. We were like,
Yeah,
the
amazing.
first half of the season, it was unbelievable. Second half, we barely kicked the ball. We barely turned up. And that was disappointing. Whereas you were like, oh, what a great season that was. Ninth, I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd take last season over this. Oh dear. Yeah, so talk to coming in, mate. Talk to me about the Leicester game. Super Tomas Soucek. Getting, you know what, mate? That goal, right? Whenever I sort of describe a Soucek goal, that is exactly the sort of goal that I love him scoring. Because, like, lots of certainly fans of other teams, but lots of our own fans, I know, hate it when he scores goals like that. They're so important. They count just as much as just as much as screamers that people used to imagine that Saeed Benrahma was scoring all the time, even though he never was. But it was so ugly and messy, wasn't it? It was like the horriblest goal ever. It was like so bad that no one even in the ground, it was just like, hey, everyone was convinced it was offside. Like there was nothing pretty about it. Could have, should have scored. So Soucek eventually scubs it in. I don't know if it went in off hit one of his feet and then the other and then hit the goalie. It's just like horrible, ugly goal. But that's exactly what I think of when I sort of think, Tomas Soucek, he's important for that, isn't he? Right place, right time, following the ball in. It's that ugly, unglamorous stuff I always talk about that is still so crucial for winning football games. It's not always beautiful all the time, is it? Even Bowen's goal, sometimes you've got to get over the line, and those goals are just as important as the beautifully crafted or the screamers, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, goals are goals, isn't it? If we only scored goals like that all season, it wouldn't bother me. I'll take it.
That'd be Potter out, though, wouldn't it? Potter out.
Yeah. There'll be some moans and groans, but he is one of the best in the Premier League at doing that, arriving in the box just at the right time and getting on the end of little scraps.
It's like modern day Frank Lampard, isn't he?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Put out on our socials, Alex. Take a few Chelsea fans, see how we go.
These boys don't know ball.
So just to clarify, James, Tomas Soucek is better than Frank Lampard was.
I would say so, yeah. I think he scored more goals for West Ham than Frank Lampard did. Yeah, so have that.
Definitely more liked.
Yeah, 100% more liked, yeah. But yeah, like with that goal, no one celebrated because everyone was like, he must have been miles offside. He was miles off. And there was a few people around me that were just incensed that Kudus didn't score because he should have scored.
Yeah, he definitely
should have. There was a few people like, I'm pleased we're 1-0 up, but what is Kudus doing? He should have banged that one in. Like, it's a terrible finish. And then obviously it goes to VAR and there's a few people went, I really regret not celebrating that now. I think that's a missed opportunity.
It was so funny. Again. Yeah, even like I've watched it back about 4 times now and seen the replay that shows he was onside, and I'm still convinced he was offside.
Yeah. It's like it's just classic Soucek. And a lot of that hasn't been mentioned in the build-up was Cresswell was doing that all game, picking the ball up in those areas as the third centre back, and just putting. I think it came from I don't know whether it's a shot or whether it was a cross from him. But he was doing that a lot. He was getting the ball in those areas, just whipping them in. And he played so well, Cresswell. Played a full 90 minutes. I never thought I'd ever see him play 90 minutes for West Ham again. I think he did the same against Arsenal as well, funny enough. But yeah, like just the whole that was us in the first half, just overall build up. Probably should have scored more, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, classic Big Tom. Love him. 38 goals for West Ham now. And do you know what? That was his 50th goal contribution in 238 games. 38 goals and 12 assists for West Ham in all competitions. That's unbelievable for a defensive midfielder. Unbelievable.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, right? That people pigeonhole him as a defensive midfielder. He's just not. He's like a Marouane Fellaini, isn't he? Effectively, modern day Marouane Fellaini. That's why David Moyes signed him. And people just because he's ungainly and like a bit ugly in his style of play. Sometimes he's a bit gangly and he's not sort of consistently doing Cruyff turns and beating people. People just go, he's a defensive midfield player. It's like, well, actually, he's really good in attacking areas of the pitch. It's just not very pretty.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what he's proven this season, because at the end of last year, when it was clear that Moyes was leaving, when everyone's looking at the squad, going, okay, well, we're going to be bringing a manager in that's going to want to play a better style of football, a more attractive style. And that's what we want. That's what the club is going to try and do. And I was like, okay, which players aren't going to fit in that system? And Tomas Soucek was at the top of every single list. He's not going to play on a possession-based team, is he? He's definitely not going to play. And we already knew he was a good player to do what we already knew that he was good at, and playing in a defensive system. His aerial ability in both boxes, and his ability to do,
and his ability on the floor still. But you're right, dirty work.
But we just, he's just a very good player in that type of team. A lot of question marks over whether we could do it in a team that is going to have more of the ball, is going to dominate possession a little bit more. And he's proven this season that he's not just a good player in a defensive system. He's just a good player, full stop.
Totally agree.
And he can adapt depending on what he's being asked to do. There are a few games earlier in the season where he was dropped out the starting 11 by Lopetegui. And that midfield looked all over the place until he came on the pitch in the second half, and everything just looks a lot more calmer and cleaner and more organised. And I looked at it. We lost 2 of the 3 games that he was dropped for under Lopetegui, conceding 6-1 on aggregate. The only one that we did win was at home to Man United with a last-minute penalty, which we should have lost, really, looking back on it, that game. So, since then, he's been in the team, started every game pretty much, unless he's been suspended. So I think, and I see a lot of predicted starting 11s next season for West Ham under Graham Potter. There's a few like linked players in there that we might sign. No sign of Tomas Soucek. It's like, when will you learn the guy's not going to go away? He's going to be in our central midfield for at least another 15 years, and the bloke deserves to be there as well, because he will score a lot of goals for us.
Yeah, no, I to be honest, it's one of very few lessons Lopetegui actually learned in his time at West Ham, wasn't it? It's one of the few things that even Lopetegui couldn't be stubborn about. Was like, he tried to sort of bin him out, didn't he, early? No, he's not my sort of player. What, you mean like really like an ultimate hard worker who puts his heart on the line every game and is more talented with the ball at his feet than many people give him credit for, and will run himself through a brick wall for you and put his head in where it hurts, and defensively be good in the air and offensively, and just generally good and a nice bloke. So that's not your sort of player, is it? I know. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Guido Rodriguez is class. So yeah, good decision. No, totally. There are still a few fans who won't have it though, James.
But that's what I'm saying. There's so many predicted 11s for next year, and he's nowhere near the starting 11. People are just expecting him to leave. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did leave. But if you're using, maybe, but if you're using the basis of this season and what we're looking at, what Graham Potter likes as the basis of what you think a West Ham team's going to look like next season, then Soucek has to be there. He's been one of our best players this season under 2 different managers.
Do you think he would?
He didn't want him.
No, yeah, totally right.
And he's still been the best player. So if you can't see a future with him in the team when he's already proven that under Graham Potter he can be effective. Yeah, I mean, what are you seeing that I'm not? I don't understand. And if he's not in the team, he's not in the team. But
what a squad player! What a squad player!
Exactly. I'd rather have him in the squad than not.
Big time.
Yeah, I don't know.
The only thing I would say against that is that, I mean, I just want to say I agree with every single syllable that came out of your mouth just then. The only thing I would say, but to sort of play devil's advocate somewhat, is that there will be those who look at the Brighton team that Graham Potter played and the style and the system and go, he had those 3 sort of all-action mobile midfielders like the Caicedo, McAllister, Pascal Gross sort of style. No, Gross was a bit more of a winger, but that's what they'll argue. They'll say that Graham Potter likes a busy mobile midfield of sort of people buzzing around and Caicedo willing to drive forward. But Potter also likes to play, a few different systems, doesn't he? He likes to be flexible. And how much more flex do you need or want than having Soucek to, even if he is a squad player, like you mentioned? No, he's he's probably, obviously Bowen. I would say he's the last player I would want to see leave West Ham in the summer behind Bowen.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually he's under Graham Potter. He's going to be more suited to a formation that involves 5 at the back, and I think because he came off the bench against. Who did he come off the bench against? I can't remember.
Was this under Lopetegui?
Yeah,
I've got.
I can't remember what it was, but
was it at home?
No, sorry, I'm thinking of something different. Sorry,
right?
He was subbed at half time against Brentford. I think
right
it was at home. Subbed at half time. We tweaked the system a little bit, and it just didn't seem to work very very much. Whereas we played the back 5 in the last 2 games, and he's slotted in and he's played brilliantly in both of those games.
Yeah.
So it feels like if it's a 4-2-3-1, probably no room for him there. It's more, you need a little bit more legs in midfield, a little bit more mobility, a little bit more attacking. But in a back 5, so about 5-4-1, there's a little bit more room for him to do the job that he does, and then still offer a little bit of an attacking threat like he did. So yeah, maybe that's what Potter might be looking at. Going, I'm going to be wanting to play that formation quite a lot next season, particularly away from home. Yeah. And I've got a player here that can play it perfectly and be a threat.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Totally. Total legend. He turned 30 as well. So happy birthday, Super Tom. Anything else then from the game, James? And we'll talk about like Bowen's goal as well. Again, I love Jarrod Bowen so much. He is an unbelievable talent. And again, it's all of this stuff that people sort of want to overlook and forget about. He does so much of the ugly, unglamorous stuff. He works so hard every game, doesn't he? Like he just proper never gives up, chases loads of balls. He's a sort of player, right? You never hear, it's like in ground sometimes. And with modern day pressing strategies and all that sort of stuff, the answer isn't always just for all of your players to chase down every ball. And sometimes stadiums, you're surrounded by people like that, aren't you? I get it. Like, their goalie will have the ball and Antonio will be like near the halfway line, and like it's silly for him to shut the goalie down from there. Someone will be going, press him, shut down, they're so lazy. And it's like, well, no, like football isn't played with just headless, headless chicken. Like if you're in a high pressing system, then fair enough, but for a high pressing system to work, all 11 players need to be on board with it. You can't just have one random player chasing the ball wherever it goes, like headless chicken, losing their energy. But one thing Bowen does, there's no ball. Very rarely does he get shouted at by those sort of people. Like even if it's a 60-40 against him, he's still like sprinting his heart out, isn't he, to shut stuff down. And he never gives up on if there's a sniff of an half chance or a mistake or anything like that. He's always on the ball, is he? He's always alert. He's always trying hard. Like 90 minutes, he's absolutely brilliant. And his goal, well, I know it went down as a Vestergaard OG, but it's the same thing, wasn't it? Pretty rubbish corner from, I think, Ward-Prowse. Bowen goes for the header at the near post, kind of misses it. But he's like, rather than he's like looking over his shoulder as soon as he lands, really alert. And the ball's at his feet. And before you know it, he's 1-2 touch, diverted it towards goal again, and it goes in. And again, won't be in his highlight show reel, that one. Won't make his Jarrod Bowen's 50 best goals on YouTube. But just as important, sealed the game for West Ham, a class act.
Yeah, I mean, we barely celebrated that goal as well, because there was a hint that, because it was on the corner flag that where we sit, and there was a slight hint in real time that he may have handballed it, the way he kind of jumped at it, and we did laugh. It was like it's good to have Ward-Prowse back, even his rubbish corners we score from, because it was definitely the worst corner we've ever taken for West Ham, and we still scored from it. But there was a hint that he'd handballed it before it had gone in, and then it was like, was it an own goal? Was it should it been his goal? So yeah, we barely celebrated 2 goals both goals, to be fair. But you are absolutely right. He just gives 100% every single week. He's taken. I think he's grown into the armband this season.
What a statement! What a way to put it. He 100% has. You're right again, James. Well played.
I can't believe it. Twice in
every
one
single
night.
syllable again.
Oh my god. But yeah, I think he has. I think he's grown into it. I think there was probably quite a lot of pressure. He felt there was a lot of pressure in the season, a lot of weight on his shoulders.
Especially when it was going badly.
And he's spoken about it, and he's very well aware of the names that have come before him that have worn that armband. England's greatest ever player, being one of them. So he's he's well aware of the responsibility that comes with it. And I think it took him a little bit of time to get used to having that level of leadership and that level of responsibility for the first time in his career. So I think now we're beginning to see that really shine through with his performances, particularly ever since he's come back from injury. I think he's been superb, and that's kind of coincided with a higher level of team performance since he's been back. So yeah, you can't fault him. He's been ever since he signed for the club. He's just been unbelievable for us.
Yeah, he really has. Yeah, I mean, the 7-year deal as well. That's so encouraging. Like, he's clearly happy and settled, isn't he? Yeah. And like, what a groove to be in as well for him. Like, he's obviously putting the work in all the time, settled off the pitch. I think he's absolutely mustard. The only thing I'm worried about is when Liverpool sign him to replace Mo Salah, because, mate, honestly, the things he do in that team, he's by far and away West Ham's best player, and he's still effective, even though defences don't have to worry about any of our other attacking players really, so they can afford to double up on him. Goes and plays in a Liverpool team. I'm not trying to sell him, but what better man to replace Mo Salah if you're Liverpool?
I agree, and I think it won't just be Liverpool fans desperate for Mo Salah to sign that contract. West Ham fans need him to sign that contract as well. Get it signed, Mo.
Yeah,
because we want at least one more season with Jarrod in the team.
Totally.
But yeah, if he doesn't get called up for the England squad, I'll be shocked.
Yeah,
absolutely shocked.
Mate, sorry, 2 secs. Delivery. Oh, very sorry, Jonesy. Amazon delivery at the door. 7:15 at night. What's all that about? Yeah, I mean, Alex will probably miss this on the edit, so sorry to those of you who had to hear me take that delivery just then. Yeah, Bowen Clark, totally agree about the upcoming international break. I'd be stunned if he's not. I mean, Grealish isn't getting anywhere near it, is he? Bukayo Saka's injured. Mate, if he's getting in, he should be starting.
Should be starting, yeah.
What's the alternative?
There isn't one. And, he's been... People say, he's unlucky because he's got Saka ahead of him. I'll put him toe to toe with Saka at the moment.
Definitely. I'll tell you what, Jonesy. I did a TikTok video the other day with Josh WHU, Josh Birdie. I'm not sure what his TikTok handle is, but he's really good. I met Josh the other day. Great lad. I'll put it on my stories and stuff, so go and have a look at it. It was West Ham players, West Ham legends versus in their prime versus Arsenal's current team, and Jarrod Bowen versus Saka was the question. And obviously, I was it's really close and blah, blah, blah. But his goal stats, non-penalty goals, actually eclipse all of those of the biggest and best players, don't they? Plus, he's doing it for West Ham, which I just think makes it so much more impressive. I don't think Bukayo Saka or Mo Salah, their numbers are as good when they're playing in front of Konstantinos Mavropanos. And do you know what I mean? And Lucas Paqueta when he can't be bothered.
I've said this for a while about Saka. Don't get me wrong, good player. But I think he's overrated because he's playing for Arsenal, and he's got a lot of good teams around him. And I stand by this. I stand by this fact. This statement, shall I say? If you think, I'll let the listeners decide whether you think it's fact or not.
Yeah.
But if he'd have come,
and a few of the Arsenal fans will be watching this on socials when it goes live. Yeah.
If he'd have come through Everton's academy, Everton or any other academy outside the top 6, but I always use Everton as the example. He'd still be playing for Everton now.
Carry on. Go on, back that up then.
I think he's a, don't get me wrong, he's a good player and he plays for England fine. But I feel like if he was playing for a team that wasn't in the Champions League every week, that wasn't trying to win the Premier League and failing, lol. He would just be seen as he'd be seen almost as the same level as Jarrod Bowen.
Right.
And he gets called world class. He's a world class winger. Well, if he's world class, I'm sorry, but Jarrod Bowen is also world class. But what Jarrod Bowen is never spoken about in that conversation. Now, if
Saka's not world class,
but he gets called world class, right?
By Arsenal fans,
maybe. And I just feel like if you look
Salah's world class, Saka's not in his league, is he?
Yeah. Goals to game ratio, Bowen's is better than if you include penalty goals.
Non-pens as well, exactly. The pens are important,
goals
obviously.
To game ratio in the Premier League, I think Saka's only scored 2 more Premier League goals than Bowen. And
are these, but by the way, are these like bona fide stats here, or are you just sort of remembering what you think you've seen? Because this is Arsenal fans will get at you about this.
I'm going to double check.
If I know Arsenal fans as I do, they're obviously a little bit tetchy still about the result the other week. They were still labouring under the delusion that they had a chance of winning the Premier League before losing to West Ham and at home for the 2nd season running to put the nail in the coffin of their Premier League hopes.
I'm on the
so we need some bona fide stats from you here, Jonesy.
I'm on the Premier League website. I'm doing a player comparison, not Jason Bowen, Jarrod Bowen. That's what I want. And Saka.
Yeah.
Here we go. One result. He's not popping up because he's injured. Come on.
This is terrible. I mean, Alex, hopefully on the podcast will sort of edit some of this out for the social clips, but
I remember doing this a while back and being actually quite surprised that people still just that Bowen isn't spoken about in the same vein as him. It's just a little bit. Okay, so
do you think Bukayo Saka, who I think is superb, by the way, do you think he outperforms Bowen's numbers if he played for West Ham?
No, I don't.
Quite agree.
I don't. Right, so here are the stats. So he's played 3. So he has got slightly better goals to game ratio, but only ever so slightly.
Right.
So Saka's played 186 games. Has got 52 goals.
Yeah.
Bowen 189. So only 3 more games. But he's scored 50 goals, only 2 goals behind. So it's marginal, very fragile.
But Saka's include pens, though, don't they?
Yeah, and so does Bowen's. Bowen scored a few pens, but if you take pens out, Bowen's flying away from him. He's miles.
Yeah.
You get goals per match slightly off. There was another one. Shots
on
target.
Just to clarify,
the same amount of shots on target. He's got a higher shooting accuracy. He's got higher shooting success. Bowen's only scored 2 penalties. Saka scored 11.
Yeah, there you go.
He's pretty much cheating, isn't he? Bowen scored. To be fair enough. Saka scored more goals with his left foot. Good luck to him. He's got more assists, to be fair, but he's playing in a team that has far more.
Well, over the average
years.
possession stats. Yeah, totally.
Big chances.
So just to clarify, James. Just to clarify, you think Tomas Soucek's better than Frank Lampard ever was, and you think Jarrod Bowen is miles better than Bukayo Saka?
Yeah, Bowen's made more through balls, 30 against Saka's 21. I mean, what more do you want?
He's he's all over him, isn't he?
He's unbelievable.
He's all over him.
So we've got the goalkeeping stats. He's got goalkeeping stats for him. They've almost get the same amount of clean sheets as well. So
as keepers,
there you go.
Proof of in case it was needed. So
and the most important ones, own goals. Saka 1, Bowen 0.
There you go.
Errors leading to goal. Saka 1, Bowen 0. Bowen wins.
Yeah,
He's the best
there you
player.
go.
He's better than Saka. He should be starting for England every single game over Saka when he's fit. Have that.
Absolutely, mate. Right. I think that there conducts the. Have you got anything else to say on the Leicester game, James?
No, other than the second half, he just couldn't be bothered. It was great.
Brilliant. Look, I hope you enjoyed James's analysis of the Leicester game there. I'll be honest, mate. That was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. When we started it, I was like, game sounded a bit grim. Not a lot in it. Not major atmosphere. We're always going to beat Leicester. Like, this is going to be a bit of a tough one getting any entertainment out of this. I think we did a sterling job, mate. And I think it was all down to you. So well played.
Sterling. He's better than Sterling as well, to be fair.
Oh dear. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Stay with us. We'll have some messages and look ahead to the Newcastle game next. Bowen again, ole ole, up the hammers. I like how this is shaping up. A little bit more pressure and moving forward and becoming a better team. And we're also getting results now. That's JDD on patreon.com/wearewestham podcast. James, if you fancy getting involved in these community chats, you can do for just a couple of quid every month. That's what JDD said. Likes the shape of it, likes how we're generally progressing under Graham Potter. What else do we got? Jim Odie. As always, Jim, one of our favourites, of course. He said, based on I assume everyone was pretty underwhelmed by last night's performance. But let me say that even beforehand, I think I've seen enough to make me think and believe that Graham Potter is the correct choice. But we have to stay patient and therefore give him time. Probably at least 2 full seasons after this year. Blimey, Jim, you are very patient indeed. I don't think we realise how bad things were under Lopetegui. Yes, we did, Jim. I certainly did. Even though last night was an improvement, it was the kind of performance that would have got certain fans wanting to sack David Moyes. That's Jim's message, everyone. That's not me saying that. That's what Jim has said on Patreon. Paul James has replied on Patreon and said, I said when we hired him, I'd give him till the Liverpool game before praising or complaining. But safe to say I've been pleasantly surprised about how he's taken to the PR lessons and the way he's tried to do what the fans have looked for. Results starting to pick up too, which is handy now to see if it continues. I mean, we've had 2 wins, James, haven't we? The Arsenal game, absolutely brilliant. The Leicester game, we were always going to win that, really. Even if Lopetegui was still in charge, we'd win that game, don't we? Do you think there's any sort of threat there of Jim and Paul in particular potentially getting carried away?
No, I don't think so. I think there's been enough positive signs to suggest that we've now got a manager in charge who can lead us on a good, on the right track, so to speak. I think I couldn't help but think after, was it I can't remember which game it was. I think it may have been the Chelsea one where we should have won, but we didn't. Should have at least taken something from it. And I just felt after then that the level of performance that we saw, I was like, he should have been the manager in the summer. It should have been the appointment that we made in the summer. It felt like we wasted 6 months, 7 months, mucking around with Lopetegui. And it just feels, everything feels different. The way that he speaks, the way he speaks in the media, the way that the team's playing, the results we're now getting, it feels right for me. Yes, it's not perfect still, and I think we have to accept that there are going to be probably a couple of really dodgy results between now and the end of the season at least, because he's still working with a team that isn't his, essentially.
Yeah.
And so there is going to be an element of a lot of players probably having to, learn. Still learning his system. He's still learning the squad, still learning their limitations as well. So there are still going to be a few little teething problems between now and the end of the season. But I think we've already seen enough to suggest that if he's backed in the summer and he can get some players in that he wants, that fits the way that he wants to play, then, there's every right to be optimistic and every reason to be optimistic about what he can achieve at the football club. Yeah. And I agree that at the same time, we need to give him time. I think maybe 2 seasons is probably pushing it a little bit.
It's still a results game, isn't it? It's still a results game. You got to get some wins on the way.
You know, next season, if we finish top 10, don't get Europe, but finish 8th or 9th or whatever it is, then I think you've got to be pretty happy with that and see that as an improvement on this season.
For when? Sorry,
next season. If it's a steady season, we're in amongst it, we're there or thereabouts. But we ultimately finish 8th or 9th. Don't qualify for Europe, but we finish 8th or 9th. And it's a season where we've not disgraced ourselves. We've won a few games that we shouldn't have. That we've gone to Tottenham on one, or we've gone to Arsenal on one. We've beaten a few big teams at home, and it's been a relatively steady season.
Top half has got to be minimum though.
100%. And you look at it and go,
sorry, but okay, that's yeah.
I agree, but you look at it and go, okay, right. He's had a season now where he's improved us. The season after that, that's when you want to start seeing us push on again. So maybe it is a 2-season job for him to kind of get to where we feel like we need to be.
But you've got it spot on there, mate. You just need to see progress, and whether you like it or not, like that means winning games and getting points and finish.
Yes.
Top half is minimum requirement for any West Ham manager. Like that's the club we are now. That's top half minimum.
Yeah, and I think given the form at the moment with the players that he's got, you know, I think we can safely say that there'll be a number of players there that he's using that he would prefer not to be using, but that's all he's got at his disposal.
Like Wan-Bissaka.
No, Wan-Bissaka, he's our right back for years to come, mate. But
who would you say is he using? He doesn't want to then. So I would expect you to ask me to back up my point there.
Well, I think I'm actually
Mavropanos, surely.
Yes, Mavropanos being one.
No, good. Yeah, who do you think then? Emerson gets in. I think the keeper keeper's fine. Mavropanos, no. Tadibo's probably one of his style of player. I rate him. Wan-Bissaka obviously likes. He likes Soucek. I don't know. Who do you think? Bowen, obviously, yes.
Thing is, though, we're assuming that he likes them because he's playing them. But don't forget, I mean, he hasn't got a choice. Like he's only signed one player, and that's a striker.
Yeah. So would you say then? Who do you think?
But if he could swap, it's difficult for me to say, but there must be. Like he's not going to go. He's not going to go right. Well, don't worry, Dave. Don't need to spend any money this summer. I've got a squad, and this squad I'm going to work with. But there's probably a few in there that he's probably got a few question marks over. But he's going. But they're performing for him at the moment, so you can't really complain. But he's probably going. You're doing well for me now, son, but probably not next year.
Go on, give me 3 names.
I don't know. I don't.
Oh, come on! I'm putting you on the spot.
I mean, we've spoken about him.
It's bad enough we don't go to games, James.
People about him at length this week, and I think Tomas Soucek is one of those 3.
Leave it out.
Breaks my heart to say it.
What have you just said earlier in the podcast?
No,
that is a total.
I genuinely believe that, and you even alluded to it. He's not a typical Graham Potter midfielder. He's doing a job now, and I'd love him to continue doing.
You're arguing with yourself, man.
No, but I do believe that he may be one that goes. I don't want him to go. Obviously, I love the man, but he might be a name in the 3 that you want me to say. I have question marks over. I'm concerned about how I'm not concerned, but Ollie Scarl's just replacing Emerson in the starting 11 all of a sudden. Where does Emerson fit in this? I don't know. Emerson could be one. And then Mavropanos definitely, but he's not going to be starting every week, so he could be just start the club as a backup.
Get rid.
And
good.
I wonder whether Mo Kudus could be one that he's not keen on.
Like he'd be the number 1. He'd be the number 1 on the list.
I was quite looking forward to seeing if Mo Kudus would suddenly become a player again. All of a sudden, he'd rediscover himself under Graham Potter.
Yeah.
And he hasn't. No. He hasn't. Not bothered.
Total end product merchant or lack of end product merchant. I need to think of a catchier phrase for that because end product merchant sounds like he's non-stop banging goals and assists. But lack of end product merchant just isn't very catchy, is it? But last night, prime example of that, can't score from 6 yards out. Thursday night, can't score from 6 yards out. Yeah, goals and assist stats terrible. Jim does go on to say though, Jonesy, despite the the sort of nature of the performance, I think the unexciting fashion of the victory over Leicester is the point he's making. But we won. That's the main thing. It also proved that possession's not everything. You need creativity to break teams down. And I think we missed Paqueta's influence and creativity. However, we look much more solid and focused. Another week of training will now help. And hopefully Ferguson will be deemed fit enough to start against Newcastle. We are, mate. It's what I said earlier. James wanted 6 points from 4 games. We now have the 6 from 2. Hopefully we continue on our upward trend next Monday night. P.S. If we'd managed to beat Brentford and Palace at home, we'd be above them both in 11th. Ifs, buts and maybes. Exactly, Jim. You can't live your life like that, saying if we'd done this all the time. What's the phrase? If your auntie had a, she'd be me uncle, I think. Right, what else we got on here, James? I had a funny message, right? Adam Nethersoul, by the way. Hats off to Adam. Love the podcast, hamster updates and general musings on why Arsenal fans are deluded, which I like very much indeed. What else? So we had a message here from Michael Wood. I'm trying to find it. Right, here we go. Look, we'll get your thoughts on this, James. I reckon Aaron Wan-Bissaka is up for Hammer of the Year. He's been superb. That's all Mike's message was, right? And I went back at him because basically he has improved and he's looked better under Graham Potter. Now he's being put in, he's like square pegs, square holes is what we've been talking about. And I've just said I'm not sure if Mike, that comment was just to bait me, Mike. But it's worked. It's Jarrod Bowen all day long. He said Bowen will win Hammer of the Year, but I bet Aaron Wan-Bissaka is runner-up. Just give me your thoughts on Mike's stance there, Jonesy. I've made mine quite clear.
Agreed. And I don't know whether you saw the
runner-up ahead of Soucek.
I don't know whether you saw the content that the club put out earlier today, Monday. They were doing. For the Oscars, it was in honor of the Oscars, and they were getting the players to vote on each other.
Yeah, for different categories.
So you'd like diva and stuff like that, but they had MVP, and a number of players in that video voted for Big Wanny B. Just saying,
Big Wanny B.
If the players think so, then maybe he has been. Maybe he is in the conversation. Just saying, mate.
He's not winning. He's not winning Players Player, is he? It's Jarrod Bowen's getting Players Player. Jarrod Bowen's getting a Hammer of the Year. Runner up, Tomas Soucek.
Maybe we'll see. But I think he is in the conversation. I think he's in the conversation, mate.
Yeah, fair enough, Jonesy. Fair enough. Let's have a look if there's any other messages that we liked. I don't know. Oh yeah, that was it, Jonesy. Kame's diary. And a few of the patrons having a chat about the latest development from the club. Season tickets frozen for the next season. Your thoughts and reactions to that, and the sort of general narrative that's building that was in reaction to all the stop exploiting loyalty protests that we've seen.
Well, contrary to what some fans might think, I believe, I'm very happy about that. I've had 1 or 2 fans put words in my mouth saying that I must be pleased about the fact that concessions and season ticket prices and all the rest there. But delighted that the club announced that there was.
Sorry, I had to mute and blow my nose and cough then, but I was laughing at what you were saying. I assume that's in response once again to you're still not over the beef you had, are you, on Twitter?
I almost tweeted it, contrary to what E20 thinks or says. I'm very pleased about this.
I would just like to say E20 is the entire channel. It's just one man in particular.
Postcode. Not everyone that lives in that postcode. Yeah. I'm pleased with it, and fair play and well done to all the support groups that did all the protests and spoke with the club and put on a really big campaign, a very, very important campaign to get the club to reverse that. But it's for me, it's a double whammy in that they've frozen the season tickets as well. So the concessions is an important point. Yeah. But there were rumours going around that they were going to increase ticket prices to help with cash flow and sort of with the increased PSR challenges that come with it.
Yeah.
There were murmurs that it might be a bit of an increase. So the fact that it's frozen, the fact that concession renewals are there as well, it's a win for the fans. And hopefully other clubs that are trying to do the same, because it's not the same. It's not just West Ham. I hope the other clubs follow suit and realise that you've got to stop shafting the fans. It's not fair. It's not good.
True.
Cool.
That would have been. No, it isn't cool. No, you're quite right, James. That would have been absolutely terrible PR management, though, wouldn't it? To have tried to raise season tickets this summer. That awful move. Sure, I'm sure they'll go up next year, but not a good move, that one. Yeah, totally agree. Right, James, or everyone, stay with us. We'll have a quick chat about the Newcastle game next. Right, just to wrap up, James, Newcastle at home next Monday night. It is their last game before they play against Liverpool in the League Cup final. Anthony Gordon is suspended after he lost his head playing in the Cup, wasn't it, against Brighton? And they actually went out of the FA Cup on the weekend to Brighton. Great win that for the Seagulls. Really weird red card that from Gordon. Probably lost his head on Jean-Paul Van Hecker, I think it was. Really bizarre. What a stupid, just total head loss to miss the biggest game in probably his career, I would have thought. I suppose he did play for England at the Euros. Who knows? But anyway, really stupid. Not only will he miss the biggest game of his career, he'll also miss the League Cup final against Liverpool the Sunday after the clash at London Stadium. There we go. Thank you very much. Monday night, Newcastle at home. What are you thinking?
Don't care, mate. Got me 6 points. I'm happy.
There we go, mate. Exactly. What a way to be. What a way to be. And imagine.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, wonderful way to be, mate. I couldn't agree. What do you think will happen then?
What do I think will happen?
Even though you don't care what happens, which is lovely.
Yeah. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I think we'll win. Newcastle don't travel very well. They'll have one eye on the cup final.
Yeah.
Obviously, it helps that Gordon is going to be suspended. So it's one less player to worry about. It probably means that Harvey Barnes will play, which annoys me because he loves a goal against us. Yeah.
Loads of players love a goal against us, to be fair.
Every player loves a goal against us, to be fair. But Harvey Barnes, he especially enjoys it. Yeah. He did for Leicester and he does for Newcastle. He's got a couple against us. So, but that said, I think that there is a big distraction for them. They haven't won a trophy in, 70 years?
70 years, yeah.
It's longer than our drought was. And it's mental for a club like Newcastle to have gone that long without winning anything.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to have one eye on that.
One eye.
So we've got a chance. Like I said, they don't travel very well. Their away form isn't great, and we're improving. I think we can win the game. I think we can win.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. All I will say is, I know what you mean about travelling. Like I say, I was at the last two games. The Manchester City one was weird. They just sort of were off it a bit for about 20 minutes in the first half. During that 20 minutes, Man City really turned it on, proper punished them. And it was kind of game over. I think they lost the game. Well, they lost the game 4-0, I think it was in the end. But if I'm honest, it really, they did. It was 4-0. But Omar Mamouche got his hat-trick between the 19th and the 33rd minute. It was a real short window where they were just off it and City proper punished them. And James McAtee gets a consolation towards the end on the 84th minute. Sorry, not consolation, just like, an extra one that didn't really matter. The game was already done. But for like 70 minutes of that game, they were pretty solid. They were really good. And it was funny because and then I was at that game, then I saw them beat Forest 4-3. And that was it was sort of the same thing. They had like 70 really dominant minutes again. Callum Hudson-Odoi put Forest up after 6 minutes. Newcastle had literally then scored 4 goals in 11 minutes. Lewis Miley, Jacob Murphy, and 2 from Alexander Isak. Miley got his in the 23rd minute. Isak in the 34th, he got his second one. And then Forest sort of came into it again in the second half, and in the last half an hour, probably, we're kind of the better team. Like Newcastle were better for most of the game and probably just about deserved to win. But yeah, they're a really odd team. They are just an odd team, and I don't know. They are dangerous going forward. They are dangerous going forward, and I also think that what they don't mind doing is sort of sitting back and like pouncing. Like Anthony Gordon is so much quicker in the flesh than he looks when you watch on TV. Alexander Isak's an absolutely class act. Like they whip the ball around nicely in midfield. A little bit cumbersome getting out from the back, but they're like good, but they have got that fragility in them for periods of the game. So if we're in a position to pounce and make the most of that, if and when that happens again, happy days. But if not, and we don't, they win the game because they are generally just more dangerous and better than we are generally. Like over the course of a 90 minutes, they spend more of the time looking good than West Ham do.
I agree. And I'm going to apologise because I was under the impression that they don't travel well. But I've just had a look at their season so far. Pretty good away from home. They're pretty good.
Well, I'm glad you said that, James, because I asked you to back up one of your points earlier on.
So, like, obviously they went to Man City and lost. But before that, they obviously won at Southampton, but everyone does that. Got battered by Bournemouth at home, didn't they? But then they won at Tottenham beginning of January. They won at Man United at the end of December.
Absolutely mustard on the road.
They won at Ipswich 4-0 in December.
If ever a team travels well, it's Newcastle.
Drew at Palace. They won at Nottingham Forest in November. So I take it all back. They're actually quite good away from home.
Newcastle. Can you search you can search the table sometimes with home and away form. This is going to be really funny because I bet Newcastle are like top of the league.
So away, are you going to work?
Home and away Premier League table. Here you go.
They're 10th.
10th?
Yeah.
That's rubbish.
Yeah, 21.
Blimey, so they are. That is absolutely appalling. West Ham are only 12th, although they have got 5 points more than us away from home, which is quite impressive. Blimey. Yeah. Well. Who knew? All right, James, fair enough. Listen, we'll have an opposition view later on this week, closer to the Newcastle game. Not sure who that's going to be with yet, but we will have one for you, rest assured. Thanks for listening. I enjoyed that, James. Nice chunky old podcast. You got any final thoughts?
No,
nothing else to say. Gorgeous.
No.
Look, thanks for listening, everyone. A solid win, if not an expected one, against Leicester last Thursday. Little bit of a break now. Newcastle at home on Monday night. Still 15th. Not a great deal to play for, other than pride and a little bit of building, I suppose, for next season. Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget to follow us on all our socials. Just search We Are West Ham Podcast on your favourite social media platform. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want these podcasts earlier than everyone else and without any adverts in, then why not sign up for the We Are West Ham Podcast Patreon? That's patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast. You will get both of those things, as I mentioned. But most importantly, and the reason we've done it in the first place, was you get the opportunity and a chance to support James and I and ensure that the We Are West Ham podcast is still going next season, is ultimately what it boils down to. That's We Are West Ham, patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast, if you fancy supporting us over there too. Thanks for listening, everyone. Get stuck in the DMs and the comments on socials and, of course, on Patreon, on the community chats. And we'll speak to you later on this week ahead of the Newcastle game. And then again, me and James will be back with a reaction as usual, a little bit later next week. So obviously the game is on a Monday night. Thanks for listening, everyone. Up the Hammers, West Ham are massive. We'll speak to you later this week.